Russia, home to many of the world's most iconic and most produced weapons. Also home to the world's most bizarre weapons. Featuring wonderful ideas like clockwork mechanisms, pulleys, and ratchets, Russian prototypes are some of the strangest weapons ever made. Seriously, some of these things are like a mad scientist's dream. During the Cold War, the Soviets had to compete with a lot of other nations to develop the most cutting-edge technology. It didn't help that generally, the USSR was a lot more locked off to the rest of the world than countries like Germany, Britain, and the USA were. This meant that intrigue couldn't be shared regularly, and the Soviets had to come up with everything themselves, while America had been experimenting with insane little projects like portable nuclear launchers, football grenades, and automatic fragmentation shotguns. Russia was experimenting with underwater rifles, hyperburst weapons, and bullpup weaponry. This led to some interesting designs like the
Hello? Hi.
The TKB-022P was created in 1962 by Korobov. This was a bullpup-adjacent weapon using a standard Bakelite AKM magazine as a pistol grip. Not the magazine housed in the grip or behind the grip. The magazine was the grip. This thing has an incredibly weird-looking appearance with terrible, ludicrously bad ergonomics. One wonderful feature was its strange and inconvenient top-mounted charging handle that was incredibly small and hard to operate. This weapon had an orange polymer construction similar to that used in the AKM magazines of the era, and its body was assembled in two pieces. It would clamp shut around the barrel and the skeletonized receiver frame to one solid piece. This weapon would fire the 7.62 x 39mm round. It had an unknown rate of fire from any sources that I could tell, but the Russian military, though, did not like the idea of this weapon at all. It was far too alien in operation and ergonomics, and they found it generally to be too cumbersome to use for a real average infantryman. This was not the end of this weapon, though, as Korobov did try to save the project. He did so by doing this. He literally just lopped off the stock and then put a pistol grip in front of the magazine and just had the trigger connected via that little metal rod. He didn't try to cover up the old trigger. He didn't hide it or anything. It is literally still there. It is completely obvious. I know that that's normally how bullpups work. The trigger is linked from really far ahead, but this is just sad.
Cheeseburger.
The VAG-73 was created in 1973 by Vladimir Gerasimenko. I'm sorry if I mispronounced or butchered the name. I don't speak Russian basically at all and really don't know what I'm doing. This was an experimental machine pistol firing caseless ammunition. What is caseless ammunition? Caseless ammo is basically ammunition that is, well, caseless. Specifically, this type of round would use a caseless projectile that was made of a hollow steel bullet with an opening on the bottom that would be filled with gunpowder. Once it was filled with gunpowder, you would close the opening by screwing in a rimmed brass base plate that would house the primer. When firing, the primer would detonate, and the propellant gases would push out from the primer hole to send the projectile down the barrel and out of the weapon. The rifling in the handgun was actually mostly engaged by the brass rim that you would screw on, and that was what would stabilize the round for more accurate fire. Normally, a regular type of round would just feature a brass case with a primer seated in the case. You would fill it with gunpowder, and then you would seat a bullet in the top. And then when the weapon fires, that case would have to be ejected normally by some kind of mechanical linkage or system in the weapon. However, with a caseless ammunition weapon, you typically don't have to include an ejection system because there's no case to eject unless there's some small fragments or artifacts left in the firing process. This weapon was a truly unique design. It would really look home somewhere in like Cyberpunk or Blade Runner. Honestly, I think it's really cool. It used a double compartment magazine, which is also very interesting. Every time you fire, that magazine at the front would get the round stripped off and then replaced immediately until the back magazine was completely empty. And then, once that was empty, it would just use the rounds from the front magazine. Both of these compartments were 24 rounds in total. That meant this pistol had a 48-round magazine capacity. For the time, that was incredibly high, and especially even still now, that's an especially high magazine capacity. But when they were testing it initially in the prototype phase for this specific weapon, they found that the rate of fire would have been way too high, so they introduced a special rate-reducing buffer that brought it down to between 5 to 600 RPM, which would make it a lot more stable and controllable in automatic fire. Despite its amazing appearance and its pretty advanced ammunition, it was found to be far too unreliable, heavy, and complicated for any real field use or trials. It weighed almost 50% more and was almost 50% larger than the standard Makarov pistol, which it was designed to replace. No meme here with this one. I genuinely just think this is a really cool gun and that I wanted to show it off and I didn't know where to put it. I figured you guys should just know about it.
Peter, what are you doing? Crack? What the
NA4. This was made in 1981 by Gennady Nikonov. Again, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation. I don't really know how to say it properly, and that's what Google told me to say. This was a bullpup configuration assault rifle with a strange magazine cage-like structure behind the pistol grip. This weapon used an incredibly simple stamped outer sheet metal shell and was very crude in construction, at least on the outside. The internals were likely pretty complicated. This used a standard 30-round AK-74 magazine chambered in 5.45 by 39mm. From what I can tell, there is a barrel jacket surrounding the barrel because the barrel and the magazine and bolt assembly all slide backwards under recoil when firing this weapon. The entire assembly, other than the frame and the pistol grip, would move backwards. While recoiling back and forth, the magazine was housed within that strange protective-like structure, which was there for the soldier's safety. Originally, the first prototype that Mr. Nikonov made of this weapon didn't even have this cage to protect the user. But, that being said, this weapon achieved semi-automatic fire, burst fire of 3 rounds at 1800 RPM, and full auto at 600 RPM, but with an initial burst of 1800 rounds per minute. Now, the Soviet military found this prototype to be far too hazardous for the soldier using it, as the reciprocating magazine could seriously harm the user if their appendages or equipment got caught within the magazine cage. Let me just reiterate, the Soviet Union found this weapon to be too hazardous to use. Memes aside, though, this thing is incredibly unsafe. Like, there is legitimately no excuse for this. This is incredibly dangerous. There's a reason that no weapons feature such giant mechanisms that would recoil back and forth. Your vest gets caught in it, your mag pouch gets caught in it, and then the gun jams and rips your fucking shit apart. This thing is horrible. That being said, all that horrible shit aside, it is one of the first few prototypes of what would become the AN-94. The AN-94 is a pretty legendary weapon in the gaming sphere and honestly the military sphere as a whole. It's a very impressive weapon, but this stepping stone was not. Lastly, we have...
What the hell? Oh my god!
This was designed by Alexander Konstantinov in 1963. Again, sorry for the pronunciation. This was the weirdest design I could actually find. It's so weird that I'm not sure if it ever even got made. This is the only existing photo of the thing that we have, which is a technical drawing, and if it was made, it was so bad that they rejected it immediately, and he had to rework it into a different weapon. But this was a very radical and unorthodox design, as you can already see. It was a bullpup layout that featured the pistol grip above the magazine and stock, which is obviously very abnormal. This thing was fed by a 30-round AKM magazine, which was chambered in 7.62 by 39, and it was designed to be comfortable for full auto shooting from the offhand position. And that basically just means standing in the open with no support, nothing to lean on, nothing to brace, just shooting while standing. This thing would have to be held similarly to the Halo plasma rifle, weirdly enough. A fucking alien weapon designed by a game developer shares more ergonomics with this thing than this thing shares with a modern weapon. Obviously, it was found to be far too radical and unwieldy, and evolved into a much more conventional, but still incredibly unsuccessful bullpup, the SA-001. So, yeah. The Soviets made some really weird shit, and they came up with some weird shit that maybe was so weird that they couldn't even make. But with that being said, are there any other prototypes you guys think I should cover? If so, leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, just subscribe. If not, that's fine. I understand. I don't like subscribing to a lot of channels myself. And if you found this video interesting, I'm sure YouTube will recommend more videos of mine to you in the future on your homepage. But I do want to thank someone very important, and this is not a sponsorship. Don't worry, I understand your ADHD doesn't want to hear it, but this is not a sponsorship. You're safe. I just really want to thank a really big inspiration and really big help for content like this, and that is Maxim Popenker. Sorry if I mispronounced the name, but I tried my best. He has an entire website that has pages in both English and Russian for every entry, modern firearms. Go check it out. I will have it linked here. Just let him know that we really appreciate it. And yeah, guys, thank you.